I'm surprised the whole thing didn't just blow up. a giant cloud exploded.
Collapse. Total collapse.
So Diane, that lecture from Litchfield's library isn't being recorded?
They don't record them. Ken spoke last year, and he had assumed that they were recording, but they weren't.
Why don't they, or can't they?
Pearl, the librarian, probably has that capacity. I don't know. I'll ask. They're about to store 200 boxes of books in my garage.
Wow.
Donations for, the friends for their book sales. Yeah. There hasn't been a book sale for a long time.
Right.
Is the book sale going to be in your driveway?
No.
Who's moving all those books around for you?
I imagine the volunteers will be doing it.
Okay. You're the real friends.
Yeah.
And the good friends.
First we're lining up pallets so that they're not sitting directly on the concrete floor.
That's a good idea.
No.
Do you get to Do you get to go through the books and get first choice of which ones to buy?
It's my garage. That's okay. I have so many books. I have a lot of books. I'm in a book group. I'm always reading a book.
That's good. James or Lambert and Ken here?
I don't see him here yet.
Okay. Oh, Lambert's here.
He came from the same meeting as me, so he should be joining soon.
All right. Morning, Shannon.
Good morning.
Hi, Shannon. Hi, Richard.
Hi, good morning.
Morning.
Morning, all. James is Pilar with us today?
Commissioner Buelna will not be joining us today. I think she emailed this morning to let us know.
Okay. So we do have a quorum, so waiting for
recording
Ken.
In progress.
And I'll be looking out for him. I'll promote him to the panel as soon as he pops up.
Okay. He'll probably start around 10:03 just to give public a chance to log in.
Sounds good. All right, we have Mr. Bernstein.
Good morning, Ken. All right, so you think the Lakers and you think the Lakers and the Clippers will get in the top half of their divisions? Of the division?
They're not looking good.
No.
What are we talking about?
Lakers and Clippers.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe if they combine and make one team, they may be okay. We'll see what happens.
What about the Rams, huh?
Yeah, there we go.
I'm more hopeful there. It's a long shot, though, I think, don't you think?
Well,
They looked pretty good last game, though.
The Bengals won the playoff game for the first time in 31 years, so surprised things happen.
But Arizona looked so bad. I mean, they looked pathetic.
It's a good defense on our part, then.
Oh, man, they had nothing.
Right.
Their quarterback was, overwhelmed.
All right, let's give it another minute for general login and we can start. All right, it's 10:03 a.m. Welcome to the Cultural Heritage Commission meeting. Today is Thursday, January 20th, 2022. The time is 10:03 a.m. My name is Barry Malofsky and I am Commission President. In accordance with Government Code Section 54953, subsections E1 and E3, and in light of the state of emergency proclaimed by the Governor on March 4th, 2020 relating to COVID-19, the Cultural Heritage Commission meeting will be conducted via Zoom, webinar, and telephonically. James, roll call, please.
Certainly. Commissioner Barron.
Yes.
Commissioner Canner.
Yes.
Commissioner Kennard.
Yes.
Commissioner Malofsky.
Yes.
We have a quorum.
Okay. Please note that this meeting is being recorded. Therefore, we ask that you state your name before you speak. Audio for this meeting will be available online within 2 business days. The agenda and meeting presentations are available online through the Planning Department website. There is a link to access the presentations at the top of the agenda. As in the past, this meeting can be heard through council phone by dialing 213-621-2489 or 818-904-9450. Members of the public can now also view this meeting online by clicking the Zoom link located near the top of the agenda. If you wish to speak before this commission, you may do so by accessing the meeting online through the Zoom link or via the phone number provided on the agenda. If you are accessing the meeting online via Zoom, click the raise hand button at the bottom of your screen once public comment is open for the items you wish to speak on. Commission office staff will call your name, if available, when it is your turn to speak. You will see a prompt stating the host would like you to unmute. Please click unmute. Please note that while commissioners, planning staff, city attorney, and presenters will be visible to everyone, members of the general public giving public comment will not be visible to anyone. If you are calling in and would like to give public comment, please press *9 on your phone when the public comment period is open for the items on which you wish to speak. Commission office staff will announce the last 4 digits of your phone number if available when it is your turn to speak. Once you hear a message that states you're unmuted, press *6 to unmute on your end, and you may begin to provide your public comment. Please state your name clearly and then proceed with your comment. Please be mindful of background noise while you are speaking so we may hear you clearly. Your time is being monitored by commission staff remotely, and at the end of the time limit for public comment, you will hear a buzzer sound or a verbal indicator, and I will ask you to wrap up your remarks. If you represent a certified neighborhood council and you have a written resolution or community impact statement, please submit it at this time to chc@lacity.org. If you have any day of meeting submissions, please submit it at this time to chc@lacity.org. Members of the public can view those submissions by clicking on the link at the top of the agenda. If you would like to be added to the interested parties list to receive determination letters for any of the agenda items from today's meeting, please email chc@lacity.org with your contact email or mailing address information and case number associated with the item. We thank you in advance for your patience as staff may take extra time. Item number 1 on the agenda is the determination to continue holding meetings via teleconference pursuant to Government Code Section 54953 E1 B through C and E3A and E3BI. A determination that due to COVID-19 state of emergency continues to directly impact the ability of a member to meet safely in person and possible commission action. Resolution before us is to continue holding the Cultural Heritage Commission meetings via teleconference and/or video conference under Government Code section just stated. Have my fellow commissioners had an opportunity to review the resolution? Any questions or comments? All right, let's open public comment, public testimony on agenda item 1.
Yes, Diego Vasquez, City Planning. Public comment on item number 1. the resolution. Anyone that wishes to address the commission, you have 1 minute. Simple instructions to address the commission. If you dialed in telephonically and would like to give public comment, please press *9 and *6 to unmute. At this time, Commissioner Marlowski, we do not have any hands raised for this item.
Okay, do we have any certified neighborhood council or council members, representatives who'd like to speak?
We have one.
Okay,
Robert Giselle, you have been unmuted. Please unmute.
Good morning. I'm here to speak on agenda item 7.
we'll get to agenda item 7 in probably about half an hour.
Okay, I would do this under agenda item 3.
No, unless you're a neighborhood council or council office.
Yes, I am. Neighborhood.
Okay. All right, then you're on. Sorry.
It is.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Commissioner Malosky,
Yes.
we're still on agenda item number 1, correct?
Oh, you're right. Correct. Thank you.
So let's wait until agenda item number 3, please.
Thank you. Okay.
This
Any
is
other?
Commissioner Canner. I move that we continue holding meetings via the teleconference pursuant to the government codes.
We close public comment on item number 1 and accept Commissioner Cannon's motion.
I'll second.
James?
Certainly. Commissioner Canner,
Yes.
Commissioner Barron,
Yes.
Commissioner Kennard,
Yes.
Commissioner Malosky.
Yes.
That motion passes.
Okay. Item number 2, Director's report and commission business. Ken, you
Thank
have
you.
a report?
Yes, good morning, Commissioners. Ken Bernstein with the Office of Historic Resources. I do have a few updates for you this morning. With the new year now upon us, it's the time that of the year where new state laws take effect, and I wanted to highlight a couple of the new state housing laws briefly that have some impact on our work. One of those is SB8, which took effect January 1st. This is a law that amends the Housing Crisis Act, or what was known previously as SB 330, that had been approved back in 2019. And that is a law that included among its many provisions that if the city is going to determine that a site of a proposed housing development project is a historic site, the city must make that determination at the time that a housing development application is deemed complete. And that's something that has had some impact on our historic cultural monument process since that law took effect. The new amendment, the new law, extends the provisions of the Housing Crisis Act, its end date, from 2025 to 2030, and also changes the definition of what's considered a housing development project to include not only discretionary planning actions, but also ministerial by right projects and housing projects that include only a single unit. So given these changes, our Office of Historic Resources is working closely with the rest of our department, our Development Services Center, our Housing Policy Team, Department of Building and Safety, and others to offer revised guidance to the public about the provisions of the new law, both with respect to historic resources and many other housing-related issues. And we'll keep the Commission posted as issues come up with respect to historic resources, given the new provisions of the law. We also wanted to mention SB 9, which took effect January 1st, and we've discussed this before. This is often referred to as the duplex bill or lot split bill. It allows single-family properties to be split into 2 lots, allowing 2 units on each lot without a discretionary planning approval. We're, with the new year, getting a number of questions about the effects of the new bill on historic resources, new law on historic resources. So I just wanted to reiterate that the final version of what was approved and signed by the governor did include an exemption for designated landmarks, historic cultural monuments, and other designated landmarks, and historic districts, including historic districts approved at the local levels, such as our historic preservation overlay zones. So that the provisions of that law would not be available in our designated historic district. And again, we'll keep you posted as issues come up with respect to historic resources outside of designated resources if it warrants bringing that to your attention. And finally, just wanted to mention the City Council has been back in session this month after their holiday recess, and there have been a number of actions affecting historic cultural monuments. First, the Plum Committee, the Planning and Land Use Management Committee, this week made two recommendations that changed the recommendations of the Cultural Heritage Commission. On the Crenshaw Women's Center nomination, the committee did not support the Commission's recommendation of approval of that building as a historic cultural monument. It did approve a very kind of partial designation based on a recommendation from Council District 10. The committee recommended that this be a site of only designation, so that the site would have historic cultural monument status, but the designation would not confer protection upon the building based upon a determination by the committee that the building had lost sufficient integrity. And the committee also took up a reconsideration of Tech's restaurant in Echo Park, the nomination for Tech's, rescinding its prior action on Tech, so the prior action of the City Council in response to pending litigation concerning alleged Brown Act concerns at the initial public hearing by the Plum Committee. So the committee took up the matter, referred the item, took additional testimony from all who were interested in speaking, and then recommended again the partial designation that had originally been approved by the City Council and recommended by Council District 13, that limited the designation of text to 2 exterior signs and the interior wooden bar top. Both of those Plum recommendations on text and Crenshaw Women's Center will now proceed on to the full City Council. And the full City Council this week did give its final approval, as recommended by the Commission, to the nominations for the John and Myra Van Pelt Estate on Lyric Avenue and the Nishiyama Residence Otomi-san Japanese restaurant in Boyle Heights. So both of those had their final approval. And that concludes my report.
Ken, thank you. I think we have 2 plaques to review today. Lambert, do you want to?
Yes, Commissioners, those 2 artwork samples were submitted for the 1513 Forest Knoll Drive residence, HCM 1040, and the JJ Buckhouse, HCM 122. So if the Commissioners are in agreement with those 2 artwork samples, those can be set into motion.
I'm in agreement. I don't know if any of the other commissioners, I assume the other commissioners are. Do we need a motion on this, Kimberly?
No, we don't need a motion. It's just historically, these have always been run by the Commission, just to kind of let them know that a plaque is being developed and if there are any comments or questions.
Okay. Well, I'm glad to see that monument number 122 is decided to be a plaque.
Yeah, it's never too late to order a plaque.
Keep that in mind, other monument property owners. Okay, is there any new business? Seeing none, let's move on to advanced calendar. Commissioners had a chance to coordinate their calendar with their travel plans with the advanced calendar. Any conflicts?
Commissioner Canner, I'm unable to attend the February, is it 17th, 16th or 17th?
Of February?
Yes.
Okay. James, make note of that, please.
So noted.
All right. Any commission announcements or requests? All right, then let's open director's report and commission business for public comment. Diego, anybody?
Yes, Diego Vasquez, City Planning for Director's Report, Commission Business. You have 1 minute to address the Commission. Simple instructions to address the Commission. If you dialed in telephonically and would like to give public comment, please press *9 and *6 to unmute. At this moment, we do not have any hands raised. You could close public comment, Commissioner McCarthy.
Okay, let's close public comment. Moving on to agenda item 3, neighborhood council position statements on agenda items. I believe we have at least one. Let's open public comment on that.
Yes. Diego Vasquez, City Planning, item number 2 for neighborhood council presentations. We have a few callers. Dean, you have been unmuted. Please unmute.
Thank you very much. I'm on the board of Coastal San Pedro Neighborhood Council. Robin Rudisil is taking lead on this item for us. This is relative to item number 7. I don't know if you want to hear me now or at item number 7.
I think if you represent the neighborhood council, that would be a good time.
Okay. Just wanted to highlight that in addition to the items that are in the letter that you received from our neighborhood council, another aspect of the historic and cultural preservation that we think is very important for this property is the preservation, the hope that historical designation would help preserve the historic and cultural function of the place in question, Walker's Cafe. This area is right, the locality is right on the edge of some of the most beautiful parks on the coast of the city of Los Angeles at Point Fermin, and is the sole vendor of food and beverages in that area for visitors to the park. And for reasons unclear to us, for years and years, Recreation and Parks has been unsupportive of any other efforts to have a very useful and nice and wonderful and historic vendor of food and beverages in this location for the public. So in addition to the architectural importance and the historical importance of the architecture, we hope you'll take into consideration the importance that this could have in helping preserve the functionality of that spot to serve the residents of Los Angeles. Thank you very much for taking our comments.
Great, thank you.
Next caller. Robin Rudisell, you have been unmuted. Please unmute.
Good morning again, Commissioners. I'm speaking on agenda item 7, the proposed monument for Walker's Cafe. I'm Robin Rudisell, Coastal San Pedro Neighborhood Council board member and the land use chair. This project is in the jurisdiction of the Coastal San Pedro Neighborhood Council and is in the dual coastal zone permit jurisdiction, where it's even more important to protect an historic coastal resource. At the January 18th, 2022 Coastal San Pedro Neighborhood Council meeting, the board approved the following motion unanimously. The Coastal San Pedro Neighborhood Council urges designation of Walker's Cafe at 700 West Paseo Del Mar as a cultural historic monument and supports the following letter of recommendation. I'll just share a couple of the highlights that I hope you have the letter. Walker's Cafe has been serving the community for almost 80 years. With its origins going back more than a century. It's one of the oldest restaurants in San Pedro and in the Los Angeles area. Generations of San Pedrans have come to Walker's to eat the famous Betsy burgers, enjoy the unrivaled view of the Pacific Ocean and Catalina Island, and talk as neighbors and friends. Walker's is a fully intact slice of 1940s Americana. Its high integrity period features have made it a popular filming location for countless iconic productions such as Chinatown, Inherent Vice, and Gods and Monsters, and many more, and is a touchstone for people wishing to connect with San Pedro's past. Lastly, under criterion 1, Walker's exemplifies significant contributions to the broad cultural, economic, and social history of the city and community, while under criterion 2, it is associated with 2 significant figures in local history, and Felician Landier and Betsy Mae Peterson. Losing it would significantly impoverish the heritage of San Pedro. So we urge you to protect this San Pedro landmark for future generations by supporting this nomination for this extraordinary place. Thank you.
Thank you, Robin. Okay, I see a number of hands raised, and I just wanted to point out to you that this is for neighborhood council position statements on agenda items. So if you'd like to speak on an agenda item and are not a neighborhood council representative, please wait for your agenda item to come up. And the hands are gradually disappearing. Okay. I guess we still have them. Right. Okay, let's close neighborhood public comment on neighborhood council position statements. Then move to general public comment, item 4. Do we have any general public comments, Diego?
Yes, Diego Vasquez, City Planning. For general public comment, these are items not on the agenda. We have a few callers. First caller, Noel Gold, you have been unmuted. Please unmute. Noel Gold, you have been unmuted. Please unmute.
Ah, come on, give me the thing back. It just showed up for a second.
You're on.
Oh no, I'm sorry, I'm just panicking here. So sorry. Listen, I'm a neighborhood council member, Coastal San Pedro Neighborhood Council, and I had raised my hand before and then someone lowered it. So I wanted to speak on the last item as the neighborhood council member. Is that possible, please?
Sure.
Okay, thank you so much.
Okay, just to clarify for the record, this is Kimberly Huangfu. We need to then close this general public comment for right now and then go back to number 2. Or Mr. Gould, you have the option of speaking when agenda item number 7 is called, and you'll be given additional time as a neighborhood council representative.
I would like to speak now at the appropriate time because I have another Zoom meeting that comes in at 11.
Okay, understood. Okay, so Commissioner
Let's close general public comment and reopen neighborhood council position statements.
And thank you. And I have to chuckle again. I apologize for my panic there. And thank you so much, commissioners, for the work that you do. I want to echo very strongly what both Dean and our land use chair, Robin Rudisil, said. I served on the neighborhood council coming on 5 years now, and I chair the Coastline Parks Committee as well as the Sunken City Ad Hoc Committee. And of course, Sunken City is right around the corner from Walker's Cafe, and Point Fermin Park is where Walker's Cafe is located. And they all brought up extremely important points. I'd also like to point out that the Point Fermin Cetacean and Community Building in the 30s was an extremely popular restaurant, and that use has disappeared. And unfortunately, that building has fallen into disrepair, and it needs to be brought back for all of the same kinds of reasons that Robin and Dean were mentioning. But Walker's Cafe is absolutely an iconic visitor serving destination. And we're in the dual zone of the California Coastal Act, as was mentioned. And one of the things that the Coastal Act so strongly supports is maintaining any existing visitor serving destination and also adding as many visitor serving destinations as we can, because we have the incredible good fortune to have literally one of the most beautiful stretches of the California coastline in the entire state here that people can easily access. And they frequently do. I live near Walker's Cafe, and in all the time that has been open, there's always like a melting pot of people from all over the city. There's locals who come there. There's people from literally 100 miles away who come there to check it out because it's so famous, because it's on Yelp, because it's, it's just like Sunken City. It's a place that attracts people. People have been married in Walker's Cafe. There have been many memorial services in front of Walker's Cafe. It's an iconic meeting place. And when you walk in, I was just going to say that
James Williams, City Planning. Mr. Gould,
a blast from the past.
Mr. Gould, how many members do you have on your neighborhood council?
That are on this call or on the council? There's 17 members on the council. I think that we are the only 3 who are speaking as members of the council on this item.
Usually it will be one representative to speak for the entire commission or board. But thank you for your comments.
We did not know that, but thank you.
Okay. Thank you all. I see one more hand raised.
Yes, Candace, go on. You have been unmuted. Candace, you have been unmuted. Please unmute. This is for item number 2, Neighborhood Council.
I see. Thank you for calling on me. I appreciate your meeting. And I'm here as a community member speaking for Walker's Cafe.
Excuse me, but you need to wait until that item comes up on the agenda unless you are a neighborhood council representative.
Oh, no, I'm a community member.
Okay, then please wait for item number 7.
All right, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
You can close public comment, Commissioner.
Okay, public comment is closed again on neighborhood council position statements. And let's reopen general public comment. These are for items which are not on the agenda.
Diego Vasquez, City Planning for general public comment. These are items not on the agenda. We have one caller, Richard Shave. You have been unmuted. Please unmute.
Commissioners, good morning. Richard Shave, private citizen here. Just a quick update. I want to remind the commission that Pig and Whistle on Hollywood Boulevard is a contributor to the Hollywood Boulevard National Register District. And before the CRA's dissolution, they were in charge of overseeing permits there, and that was transferred to Office of Historic Resources in 2012, and Lambert's the point person on that. I want to share with you an email I received. Canon Lambert also received it this past Saturday evening about 9 p.m. The business in the Pig and Whistle, Mr. Tempo, has halted their operations, and this is from Council District 13. And Council District 13 will work with all other city departments to take necessary corrective actions. So I'm hopeful that Ken will be able, and Lambert will be able to provide some updates on the disastrous situation at Pig and Whistle with all of the unpermitted work and these extremely upsetting damage to the historic integrity of the space. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Commissioner Malosky, we have no more hands raised for this item.
Okay, let's close general public comment and move on to item number 5. The appointment of John Hamilton as the at-large member to the Harbor, Banning Park and Vinegar Hill Historic Preservation Overlay Zone Board for a 4-year term from January 20th, 2022 to January 20th, 2026. Lambert is...
Yes, thank you, President Malosky. Yes, John is here and can answer any questions the commission may have.
Morning, commissioners. Morning. I guess I'll just ask you what sort of now become my standard question. What do you think are the big issues in the Harbor HBOZ district that you're concerned about?
Well, I was actually really relieved to hear Ken's comments about exemptions for HBOZs, because I really thought that was going to be the big challenge going forward the next couple of years. From our experience, the outreach with the property owners in the individual HBOZs is also a challenge. We often have clients come to us that have HBOZ, that have properties within HBOZs and are somewhat unaware of the implications. So I think working with the property owners and homeowners to help them understand the value of the HBOZs and help them leverage the assets that they own.
Great, thank you. I also think you want to take that one step farther and work with the realtors who work in that district so that they're aware of the issues as they're selling the properties, which makes the owners, the buyers, aware of them as they're purchasing them.
Yeah, and what an asset it is, right? That's right. That's the thing, the mindset that's got to be there.
Right. Commissioners, any other questions for Mr. Hamilton? Let's open public comment on item number 5.
Diego Vasquez, City Planning for item number 5. Simple instructions to address the commission. If you dialed in telephonically and would like to give public comment, please press star 9 and star 6 to unmute. We have one caller, Linda Alexander. You have been unmuted. Please unmute.
Yes, thank you, commissioners. Linda Alexander. I happen to be on the Central Neighborhood Council, and I'm new to this commission, and so this may be a dumb question, but I'm interested in Mr. Hamilton's connection to our Vinegar Hill Preservation Area.
Well, I'm actually quite lucky to have family and friends that live in the harbor. I don't live directly in the harbor area or the Vinegar Hill area, but I'm I'm lucky enough to have family and friends and actually employees that all live somewhat in proximity. We've actually also worked on some work on Pacific, restoring one of the older buildings right near the central business district over there. And we have, frankly, we have a interest in historic preservation and the history of the city. I'm born and raised in Los Angeles and have been lucky enough to live in a Paul Williams house, a John Byers house, and some other houses that are somewhat significant. So my interest really is in trying to contribute to the city that I was born in and grew up in. But to your point, that's not my home.
Great, thank you.
Yes, we do not have any more hands raised, Commissioner.
Okay, let's close public comment on item number 5. Commissioners, do we have any comments, questions? Do we have a motion?
This is Commissioner Ganner. I think Mr. Hamilton handled these questions very well. I would like to see him be appointed to be the at-large representative to the Harbor HBOZ for 4 years, concluding in January of 2026.
Do I have a second for that motion?
I'll second.
James?
Certainly. Commissioner Cantor,
Yes.
Commissioner Barron,
Yes.
Commissioner Kennard,
Yes.
Commissioner Malofsky.
Yes.
The motion passes.
Okay. Moving on to item number 6, proposed monument status for the Hollywood Home Savings and Loan. Lambert.
Yes, good morning, Commissioners. Lambert Giesinger with the Office of Historic Resources. Item 6 is a nomination for Hollywood Home Savings and Loan, located at 1500 to 1518 North Vine Street in Hollywood. The staff recommendation is that the commission take the property under consideration and adopt the staff report findings. And Brian Curran and Catherine Amundsen are here from Hollywood Heritage to present the nomination.
Yes. I'll jump in.
Brian?
Yes.
Brian, how much time do you need?
I'm going to be introducing Catherine. Catherine will be presenting for us today.
For how many, what time?
How much time, Catherine, do you need?
About 10 minutes.
Okay.
Perfect.
Let's give you about 10 minutes.
All right. Thank you, Commissioners, for the opportunity to present to you the Hollywood Savings and Loan nomination. The Hollywood branch of the Home Savings and Loan is an exemplary example of the partnership of Howard Amundsen and Millard Sheets. Few patron-artist relationships were as prolific and encapsulated the economic, artistic, and social developments of California and the United States. The Hollywood Home Savings and Loan is perhaps the best known of this partnership, and with its mosaics, stained glass, and murals, exhibits the history of the Hollywood motion picture industry, enclosed within a new formalist jewel box that thought timeless yet modern at the time. It remains to this day a landmark gateway to Hollywood, facing the intersection of Sunset and Vine. Hollywood Heritage hopes that the commission will take the Hollywood Home Savings and Loan under consideration for historic cultural monument status. It is my pleasure to introduce our presenter today, who has a special relationship with this building. Our intern, Catherine Amundsen, the great niece of Howard Amundsen. Catherine not only wrote the nomination, but will present the Hollywood Home Savings and Loan to you today. Thank you.
Good morning, Commissioners. Should I share my screen?
Yes.
Great, okay. All right. So my name is Katie Amundsen. Oops, I'm so sorry, wrong button. My name is Katie Amundsen, and I'm presenting on behalf of Hollywood Heritage. I'm very excited to be here, so thank you all. To start with some significance, this is the Hollywood branch of Home Savings and Loans. My great-great-uncle Howard Amundsen purchased property in 1967, and in 1968, the construction of Millard Sheets' new formalist style bank that you see here was completed. It is in the new formalist style, and it uses artistic details like mosaics, murals, and stained glass to portray some of the Hollywood history
and culture in the area. This was the site of the first film in Hollywood, and it has an interior mural to commemorate that. It was the Squaw Man, so there are 4 scenes from the Squaw Man painted by Millard Sheets actually on the interior of the building, as well as some stained glass by Susan Hurtle that portrays different Hollywood chase scenes, and mosaics that you see here in the front that show the different Hollywood characters and actors that we are familiar with today. So at the time, new residents didn't know much about California history, and it was pretty easy to dismiss new construction and demolishing the past. So Amundsen hired Sheets to find a distinctive style that would allow home savings and loans to appear timeless yet modern. And he specifically asked Sheets to create a usable past that would include local history and community landmarks. And this gave rise to the ornate jewel box style that we see today for many of the home savings buildings. And this one in particular does have its original footprint, materials, finishes, and I think does a great job of conveying the cultural history of mid-century Hollywood. Some of the historic context. Before this was home savings and loans, the lot was first reported as part of a ranch owned by Colonel Robert Northam. And in 1901, Northam constructed the ranch and the barn that became known as the Lasky-DeVille Barn that's owned by Hollywood Heritage today. And then in 1904, Jacob Stern, a real estate developer, acquired the property. And in 1913, filmmakers Henry Reviere and L.L. Burns leased the barn on Stern's ranch for their studio before Cecil B. DeMille and Jesse Lasky subleased the barn for their Jesse L. Lasky feature play company several months later. And then, so this is the barn as it was moved. It was originally located on the corner of Selma. The whole studio extended from Selma to Sunset, and the barn was moved in 1926 to where Paramount Pictures is today. But between 1926 and the mid-30s, 1500 Vine was used for a variety of small commercial entities. And in 1936, the National Broadcasting Company purchased the site as their West Coast radio studio. And in 1964, it was demolished. So in 1967, Howard Amundsen purchased property for his Hollywood branch of Home Savings and Loans and hired Millard Sheets to construct the building in its classic 2-story new formalist style with simple travertine cladding and a richly decorated exterior as well as interior. And so for each of these Home Savings and Loans locations, Sheets sought to incorporate local history and culture in murals, mosaics, sculptures, and stained glass. And he wanted to connect the community-oriented identity of Amundsen's Home Savings and Loans with each building's physical appearance. So this is the same structure that we have today. And really these banks wouldn't be what they are without that relationship between Millard Sheets and Amundsen. Before Millard Sheets was working for Home Savings and Loans, he was known for his watercolors in the 1930s, and in 1932, he ended up founding the fine art department at Scripps College. And then in 1941, he went on to design a school for the U.S. Army to train pilots during World War II. And this kind of gave rise to his new formal style that he's known for today, and what sort of piqued Amundsen's interest in hiring Sheets to build a timeless building. So undoubtedly his most visible works from the post-war period are the Home Savings and Loan structures that he produced for Amundsen during the 50s and 70s. And similar to the Air School, he developed a design and established a team of skilled artisans to help realize his vision. So he leveraged his extensive artistic experiences and connections to hire some of his students as well as colleagues to help construct the buildings for Amundsen. And this kind of began their relationship in the 1950s when when Amundsen commissioned Sheets to create a visual identity for home savings that would convey an image of security and financial stability by incorporating decorative artwork linked to the local community. So today, Home Savings is recognizable for its identity being the monumental geometric masses with travertine cladding and gold trim. And this attracted customers who wanted to seek association with the building so beautiful. And today it remains, today the building retains its integrity through all 7 aspects. Its location is on the same site that it's always been on. Its design is highly intact with only minor alterations, but almost all of the character-defining features are retained, as well as the setting. This was initially a mix of multifamily, residential, and commercial land uses, and today still remains at integrity of setting, as well as materials. We still have the original exterior and interior cladding, as well as exterior and interior doors, fenestration, flooring, and artistic features such as the stained glass and mural, and workmanship as well. As noted above, the property retains its character-defining features and materials, and reflects the aesthetic principles of the new formalist design that Millard Sheets in his studio created, and therefore also retains its association and feeling. Because the property has retained its integrity of location, design, setting, materials, and workmanship, it continues to convey the aesthetic and historic sense of its original design and character. So, as you can see, it does retain much of its integrity. Here are some of the exterior character-defining features, such as the double-story floor plan in the new formalist style, which has become known as this jewel box design, the travertine cladding, as well as in the front there is a fountain from the 1920s era, or a statue from the 1920s era of Europa riding Zeus. I believe it was designed by Paul Manship. This massive granite mosaic, the stained glass, the floor-to-ceiling fixed windows, shallow brick steps, the hooded primary entrances, all of the doors, windows still are the same and considered character-defining features of this style, as well as these interior features such as the wood and clay tile flooring, the rough cement and plaster walls with plaster molding, the flat and vaulted ceilings with wood beams, single Dutch doors, circular wood staircase, squaw man mural, the double height lobby, and the skylight within the double height lobby. So today, out of the 40 banks that Sheets designed, about 12 are slated for demolition or up for sale. This is Santa Monica branch, which was initially designated a historical monument, but was overturned and is now slated for demolition. The mural, although will be sent to Orange County and put into a museum, but of course will be taken out of its context. So I think therefore lose a bit of integrity once you separate it from its structure. And then this specific beach homes is also slated for demolition. And I believe 5 have already been demolished, but none have actually been landmarked as I was looking. Many have been recognized eligible for historic designation under criteria 3, but none have actually been landmarked as far as I know, except for the Santa Monica one that was then revoked. And so at a time when we are currently losing a lot of these banks and their murals and their artwork is being separated from the buildings, I think it's important that we consider one of these buildings for landmark status. And I believe that out of all this work, this Home Savings branch is one of the most indicative of Sheets' styles and talents and dedication to his craft. As an architectural designer, a painter, a muralist, an interior designer, a project leader, and a manager, and a mentor and teacher, this structure exhibits the confluence of his acquired experiences and is an excellent example of a new formalist style. So for those reasons, I hope that you consider this building for a historic cultural monument designation. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Commissioners, do you have any questions for Brian or Katie?
I have a question. How many of these Millard Sheets buildings are within the city of Los Angeles that could potentially be other monuments?
I do not know off the top of my head.
Okay.
Yeah, that'd be an interesting thing to find out. That's a good question, Richard.
Maybe we should have Lambert look into that.
We can assist you with that task in the meantime.
Okay. I'm sure Lambert appreciates that. I know the commission does. Is there an owner's representative who has a presentation or any comment? Lambert, are you aware of any?
We didn't hear from anyone, and there are two other properties in the city that were identified through Survey LA.
James Williams, City Planning. We have a hand raised. It appears to be Bill Amundsen. Is he related?
He is. I think he would like to speak during public comment.
Very well.
Okay, commissioners, any questions before I open public comment?
Mr. Cantor, Commissioner Cantor, the Home Savings and Loan Headquarters on Wilshire Boulevard is a structure that sits across from a landmark that we designated. And I think we've talked about this before, the potential of that headquarters as being a landmark. That's just an FYI. It's not in Hollywood, so Hollywood Heritage probably wouldn't be involved. But, you know, the Howard Amundsen influence is so significant in LA history. So, you know, we should think about the headquarters too.
Well, either someone else should nominate it, or maybe it's one that we bring up or have staff, do the research for us. Yeah. Thank you, Diane. Okay, let's open public comment on item number 6.
Yes, Diego Vasquez, City Planning, for item number 6, simple instructions for public comment. If you dialed in telephonically and would like to give public comment, please press star 9 and star 6 to unmute. We have 2 callers. First caller, Bill Amundsen, you have been unmuted. Please unmute. You could unmute.
Can you hold on a second, please?
Yes.
Hello?
Yes, please proceed.
Hello?
Yes.
Yeah, please proceed with your comment.
I did not have my hand raised for a comment, but I can say, as a member of the family, this is a very important building, and there are a number of them that are at risk. For example, the building in Pasadena on Lake in Colorado has been taken down, and even the mural inside was quite bone of contention on the inside, because that was also slated for demolition until another organization took it up. And these jewel box design buildings, while not everybody's favorite cup of tea, certainly is something that adds to the fabric of Los Angeles. That's all I have to say.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next caller. Steve Luffman, you have been unmuted. Please unmute.
Good morning, commissioners. Stephen Luffman, as the founder of Friends of Lytton Savings and the author of the HCM application for the Hollywood Lytton Savings, I wholeheartedly support this HCM. In fact, I believe the building also meets criteria number 1. As savings and loans were in high demand during the post-war years, as they financed the massive residential development boom, their growth in the region translated to the need for increased space. As such, the Home Savings Office is an early example of this transformative shift in post-war era banking, recognizing the spending power of the middle class. During this time, savings and loans sought out talented architects and architectural designers in this case to build an identifiable brand. I believe that Millard Sheets' relationship with Howard Amundsen was integral to the Home Savings success. And as someone who grew up in Los Angeles, seeing Home Savings throughout the area is part of Los Angeles, and it's a very important part. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next caller, last caller, Margaret Gerber, you have been unmuted. Please unmute.
Yes, hi. My name is Margaret Gerber, and I am on the Hollywood Heritage Board and also on the Preservation Committee. And I feel like these buildings are jewel boxes in more ways than one. I originally discovered this building just patronizing the bank, and I have to say that to me, art is so important, and to see something beautiful and the way it tells the story of that corner's importance to the not only radio, television, movie industry, all entertainment. It's just a wonder to have that in all the site-specific art. It's in all the buildings, and I would love to see we were trying to determine a word for a collection of buildings that are all designed together in a suite. But I would love to see the last of them landmarked because they're so iconic for LA, and the way they sit on the sites is so unique. I grew up in the Valley in part, and the one in North Hollywood is amazing, and they all are. And to be able to have something left behind that we can tell the story of that site-specific place is just wonderful. So I support this nomination.
Thank you.
We have one more caller. Candace, you have been unmuted. Please unmute.
Thank you for recognizing me. I grew up in Los Angeles. I'm 72 years old. I am an artist all my life. And I have to tell you how important it is to see artwork in the course of normal daily life, or for families going out on outings to Los Angeles. You don't have to pay any money. You can see this artwork as you walk along the street. It's vital for our community to have these upstanding public artworks to enjoy in the course of our daily life. Thank you so much.
Candace, for the record, could you give us your name, please?
Candace Gawne, Gawne.
Thank you.
Thank you. Last caller, Donna Williams, you have been unmuted.
Hello, thank you for taking my call. I am a board member of Hollywood Heritage. I'm also a resident of the immediate neighborhood of this building. And I'm also a professional architectural conservator and was honored actually to work on the building when there was a transformer incident, I would say about 10 years ago, and professional conservators were hired to come in and clean the interior surfaces of the artwork. And I can attest to the fact that the standards of the artwork are as high as they get. And interestingly enough, up until the last building owner, the artwork had been always extremely well maintained. So I can certainly attest to the integrity of what you were looking at. I do hope you take this under serious consideration, and thank you very much.
Thank you.
Commissioner Milosky, we do not have any more hands raised.
Okay, let's close public comment on item number 6. Yeah, I think this is sort of a very interesting nomination. I think obviously, the bank as a representative of savings and loan, and as Stephen mentioned, its post-war importance in the city is worth considering. I think the Millard Sheets artwork is definitely worth taking into consideration and probably recommending designation. But I'm not sure how one does this. There's a lot of history on this site too, beyond the bank. There is the first studio, that was the first studio site before it's now been moved to opposite the Hollywood Bowl. It's the NBC studio site. And I just wonder if there's any way in this nomination, that the importance of the site as a site and what happened on the site can sort of be elaborated on. Commissioners, any other comments?
I have a comment. It's funny, I think it was maybe, 2 or 3 years ago, we were walking down Sunset Boulevard, Lambert and I, and I'm not exactly sure who else.
I think it was me.
Was it you?
Yeah.
And we were on a tour somewhere. I can't remember where. And maybe the Palladium. And we walked past the Home Savings and Loan, and I said to Lambert, "Isn't that a monument?" And he said, "No, it's not." And I said, "Geez, that ought to be a monument. You know, if anything should be a monument, that Home Savings and Loans." I think, you know, the life of Millard Sheets, I think, is really, really interesting. You know, he was a self-taught architect, and it's really quite a remarkable, you know, his work and his artistic pursuits. And I think, you know, the Amundsons and all of that, all the work that they did is also very significant. And the combination of how they hired Millard Sheets to do this and how he came up with this design, and sort of, in some ways, it's kind of cookie cutter all over Southern California, but varied in different ways, and then always had these wonderful murals attached to them that were specialized to, like you saw the Santa Monica one with the boat and the fish and the sun and all of that, which was very Santa Monica, and in the Hollywood one, which is very Hollywood. And that was pretty true of all of the ones that he did. And you would see them in different communities. And I was always fascinated by his architecture and the murals that were represented on that. It was almost like he wanted to have a building so he could put murals on it. You know, I think his passion was in the murals, and he had a whole bunch of people that helped him do that. So I'm extremely enthusiastic about this going forward, and I would like to see other Millard Sheets murals and buildings be included somehow in monuments. I think his work throughout Southern California is highly significant. That's all I got to say.
Oh, thank you. Gail, Diane, any comments?
Yeah, I mean, this is, I'm a resident, grew up in Hollywood, so I remember going to that bank, and as you're waiting in line to make your deposit or whatever you're doing, you're looking at these beautiful murals, and it just makes the experience so much better. And I appreciate the application and the nomination where they talked about how people actually started to deposit money in home savings because it was something beautiful and it was a place to be. So I can attest to that it was such a beautiful place to be. So I'm really thankful for that. I also want to compliment the Amundsen family on all the time that I've been on the commission. We've heard from descendants of architects. I talk about buildings, but not many owners that I can remember. So I appreciate you for your champion of this building. And I will echo Commissioner Barron's thought that perhaps this could be a suite of a number of home savings buildings that are throughout Southern California and Los Angeles, at least. So I also support the consideration. Thank you.
Commissioner Cannon?
Yes, Gail, talking about going to the bank reminds me that I used to bank at Colorado and Lake, and I was familiar with the murals, and then a couple of months later they were gone. And I'll have to say I wasn't much of a preservationist then, and I just took it for granted that the bank was streamlining for security reasons or whatever. But maybe that's what they have in mind here. I think we should wake up Chase Bank and includes a Paul Manship sculpture. There's maybe, one, I don't know of any other Paul Manship sculptures in public view in Los Angeles. So I think we're all in favor here.
Yeah, I think there's one other comment, the public comments about you don't need to go to a museum to see art. You can walk down the street and there's a Millard Sheets on the corner. It is really an important aspect of this building. I think it's obviously part of the thinking when the Amundsen family did it of bring art to the public. It's public art without going through a process of public ownership. its owner who showed an interest in bringing art to the public. I appreciate that. Do I have a motion? All together now.
Okay, I'll move that we take under consideration the Hollywood home savings and loan at Sunset and what's across the street?
Fine.
Thank you.
This is Commissioner Kennard. I said.
James? James?
James, you're muted. You're still muted.
We can't hear you.
How about now?
Yeah.
Now we can.
Now you're back.
My external microphone failed me. Okay, we have a motion and a second on the floor. Commissioner Barron?
Yes.
Commissioner Kennard?
Yes.
Commissioner Canner?
Yes.
Commissioner Malofsky?
Yes.
The motion passes.
All right, moving on to item number 7, Walker's Cafe. Lambert?
Yes, Commissioners. Item 7 is proposed monument nomination for Walker's Cafe, located at 700 West Paseo del Mar in San Pedro. The staff recommendation is that the Commission take the property under consideration and adopt the staff report findings. And we have Emma Rault here to present the nomination, and we also have an owner's rep, Derek Brummett, on the line to speak after the presentation.
Okay. Emma?
He's being promoted to the panel, sir.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Hi, good morning.
Emma, welcome. How much time do you need?
About 10 minutes?
Okay.
Great. I will share my screen with you. Everyone can see this okay?
Perfect.
Great. I just wanted to take a moment to introduce myself. My name is Emma Rault. I'm a community advocate seeking historic cultural monument designation for Walker's Cafe. I'm not a formally trained preservationist. I grew up 5,000 miles away from here in the Netherlands. I've moved around a lot. I lived all over Europe. Los Angeles and San Pedro in particular became my home. The effect these experiences had on me is that I became very sensitive to the spirit of place, the impact of the built environment on our well-being, our sense of identity, the building of community. As I will go on to demonstrate, I believe Walker's Cafe encapsulates a lot of what is uniquely distinct and special about Los Angeles and San Pedro. This is the subject property, which has housed Walker's Cafe since 1946. This building is a relatively modest example of a vernacular restaurant, but it has played a very important role in the community over more than a century. Now, I'm going to be showing some video footage, so if you're looking at this on your own device, I suggest you fast forward to the static map on slide number 4. I want to take a moment and show you how extraordinary this location is. It sits at the southernmost tip of Los Angeles. The cafe looks out onto the ocean and Catalina Island. To the east, it is a block away from the area known as Sunken City, the remains of a 1929 natural landslide. The cafe is directly across from Point Fermin Park, which has been a public park since the 1920s, with Point Fermin Lighthouse, which was designated a historic cultural monument in December 2021. Directly to the west, you have the Korean Friendship Bell and part of the upper reservation of Fort MacArthur. The lighthouse and the upper reservation together form the Point Fermin National Historic District. Walker's Cafe sits at the heart of this amazing public space, which brings together a lot of history. Walker's Cafe meets the criteria to become a historic cultural monument in the city of Los Angeles because it is associated with the social, cultural, and commercial history of both San Pedro and Los Angeles as a whole. And it is associated with the lives of historic personages important to city and local history. Walker's Cafe was identified in Survey LA in 2012 as an example of early commercial development. Walker's Cafe was founded in 1946 by Raymond J. and Betsy Mae Walker, who you can see here in slide number 6. Raymond Walker was a chief signalman in the Navy. During the Second World War, he was posted at the Harbor Entrance Command Post at Fort MacArthur. The Harbor Entrance Command Post was located at the upper reservation in a tower now gone in what is now Angels Gate Park and was used to clear ships for entering the harbor. Betsy Mae Logan was a migrant from Oklahoma. She came to San Pedro in 1933, where by her own account she waited tables all over town, including on the old Beacon Street, which was demolished in the 1970s. After Raymond Walker died in a car accident in 1953, Bessie went on to operate Walker's Cafe for nearly 50 years, helped by her mother Lena and her sister Christine, who you can see here on slide number 9. Betsy developed a reputation for never letting anyone go hungry, even if they didn't have the money to pay the bill. The murals inside Walker's were done by a merchant marine who Bessie found sleeping in the park and gave shelter to for months to help him get back on his feet. And you can see these murals here in slide number 11, on the beams here, and in the background in this booth in the right-hand corner. When Bessie died in 1996, her obituary described her as the most loved woman in San Pedro. Walker's has been an important community gathering place in San Pedro for nearly 80 years. The cafe's clientele is a microcosm of San Pedro, reflecting its identity as a port and military town. Not only was the cafe founded by a retired Navy veteran, Walker's soon became popular with military families stationed at Fort MacArthur, as well as longshoremen, fishermen, and merchant marines. Many San Pedrons have come there over generations, bringing their children and grandchildren. It's also historically been a popular pit stop for bikers on their coastal cruises. In this way, it is tied up with the rise of motorcycle culture in Southern California following World War II. Deeper research has revealed additional layers of context and significance. The story of the property begins around 1916, when local jitney driver Felician Landier opened a grocery store and soda fountain there. You can see it here on slide number 15 with the jitneys in front. And in this next aerial from 1926, you can see the grocery store building from up above. You can see the stepped parapet on the side walls and the awning in the front. And this next photograph provides a better view of the facade of the grocery store with the Pacific Electric trolley going by. Now, in this next aerial photograph from 1929 on slide number 18, you can see that they then added onto that original facade, extending it out to the sidewalk so that effectively the old facade was engulfed by this new construction. And you can see a little bit of the old facade peeking out on the right-hand corner. 6 years later, in 1935, they hired local contractor George G. Aikenhead to construct a cafe building. This building has a much smaller footprint than the grocery store. The reason for this is unclear, but it could be related to structural damage resulting from the landslide in the Sunken City area in 1929, or the 6.4 magnitude Long Beach earthquake of 1933. Now, when you compare this photo of the original facade on slide number 19 to these photos of the interior of the current building, you can see that the same arch that used to be on the exterior of the grocery store is now above the bar of the cafe. So some of the original fabric dates back all the way to 1916. Felician Landier went on to play an important role in local transportation history. He established the San Pedro Motor Bus Company, which, as you can see in these ads, was in direct competition with the Pacific Electric and eventually forced it to abandon its local streetcar lines. Through its association with Felician Landier, the property narrates the story of the battle between automobiles and streetcars in Los Angeles over the first half of the 20th century. The Landiers expanded their transportation business to other areas of LA, including Watts, Gardena, and Torrance, and the family business remained in operation until the early 70s. Over the years, the cafe's authentic period features have made it a popular filming location. Its track record includes some of the most iconic silver screen portrayals of Los Angeles. Here we have Chinatown, Inherent Vice, Gods and Monsters, and the HBO Perry Mason prequel. The cafe's use in these movies speaks to its ability to convey LA's history as an iconic example of a 1930s, 1940s vernacular restaurant. Walker's Cafe has also been captured by a lot of artists, further cementing its iconic role in public consciousness. And here, this is slide 24 through 30, you can see some of the artwork featuring the cafe. It has also been featured in novels as well as in a blues song. Walker's Cafe retained a high level of integrity with all of its character-defining features intact. And on slide 31, you can see the character-defining features on the exterior. Here we have the double wood and glass outswing entry doors, the stucco cladding, the stucco parapet with a flat rolled composition roof and Spanish clay tile detailing, a picture window that was added in 1954, and the 2x3 fixed pane windows, as well as the building-mounted horizontal neon blade sign. And beginning on slide 33, you can see the character-defining features on the interior. Here we have the original bar and chromium stools. We have the two-door icebox that Betsy bought when they first opened the cafe. With the hand-painted menu board. We have linoleum or vinyl asbestos tile flooring, and you can see the arch again here as well. Wooden wainscoting. And here, finally, in slide 38, we have the murals again, as well as custom cabinetry for the porcelain figurines that Betsy collected. The desired outcome of landmarking would be to see this iconic place protected and pave the way for continuity of use. A number of local stakeholders have expressed serious interest in stepping in to take over the business, if indeed the owners are looking to move on. In summary, Walker's Cafe is significant as an example of early commercial development in San Pedro, is the longest continually operating cafe in San Pedro, is associated with overlapping transportation histories of Los Angeles, from jitneys and streetcars to motorcycles, as well as two key San Pedro figures, Felician Landier and Betsy Mae Peterson. It's also a Los Angeles icon featured in classic movies, including Chinatown. But above all, it is significant as a much-beloved institution, central to the identity and social fabric of San Pedro over 80 years. Commissioners, the fate of Walker's Cafe is an increasingly urgent matter. As a result of its recent closure, the property and surrounding park have become a target of vandalism, and we are truly in danger of losing one of San Pedro's most important resources. Therefore, we ask that you take this property under consideration. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Emma. Any questions for Emma? All right, Lambert, you said the owner would like to speak?
Yes, I believe he's present. Derek Brummett. Yes, he's here. I think he just needs to raise his hand or be able to unmute.
James, you want to unmute him or?
Okay, I think I've got him. You hear me? This is Derek.
Yes. Yeah. How much time do you need, Derek?
About a minute or two. So.
Oh, that's easy.
Okay. I'm Derek Brummett. I am the trustee for the property of Walker's Cafe. Since my grandmother, Betsy Peterson, passed away, her son, my father, Richard Brummett, has been the sole proprietor of Walker's Cafe. My father is currently 89 years old and is in poor health, which is why the restaurant had to be closed in October. And he will no longer be able to run the cafe. The remaining family members will not reopen the cafe. It will either be sold or closed permanently and boarded up. If the commission wishes to keep the cafe as a historical monument, then it would be my opinion that there needs to be some sort of exemptions in existence to allow this to continue in operation as it has since my grandmother opened it in the 40s. The family, my father, myself, my sister, none of us had any kind of contact in regards to this application. And so when we got it in the mail, it was a bit of a surprise. But that's where we stand. I appreciate the work that has gone into the presentation. Much of it are things that I already knew and some that I didn't. And that's all I have to say on the matter.
Okay, thank you. You mentioned that some exemptions would be required. What kind of exemptions are you talking about?
Well, my understanding is in order to continue operating as a restaurant with any kind of alcohol permits, it was grandfathered in. I believe it's been rezoned as residential from commercial. I don't know if there's someone there who can speak on that, but those are some of the things I found out. And if that wants to continue as an operating cafe as it is, then any new owner, I believe, would need to have the ability to maintain that sort of operating stature.
Okay, those are items beyond our control, I think. Okay, commissioners, do you have any questions for the owner? All right, let's open public comment on item number 7, Walker's Cafe.
Yes, Diego Vasquez, City Planning, for item number 6, simple instructions for public comment. If you dialed in telephonically and would like to give public comment, please press star 9 and star 6 to unmute. We have a few callers. First caller, Mona Dallas Reddick, you have been unmuted. Please unmute.
Good morning. My name is Mona Dallas Reddick. I'm speaking on behalf of the board of the San Pedro Bay Historical Society. The society enthusiastically supports a historic cultural monument designation for Walker's Cafe. With its down-to-earth ambiance, the period interior, and simple lines, this decades-old cafe embodies the seaside and waterfront character of San Pedro. Sitting directly across the street from Point Fermin Park, itself the home of the 1874 Point Fermin Lighthouse, Walker's complements the age and feel of the park, and you probably know that the lighthouse is on the National Register. Others have or will cover the specific criteria for a historic cultural monument designation. I would like to emphasize the importance of the cafe to the community. The number of signatures on the petition to save Walker's Cafe at 2,300 and counting attests to local support. San Pedrons want to see Walker's preserved for what it has been in recent years and for its connection to post-World War II era and even earlier. The ill-advised destruction of lower downtown San Pedro during the 1970s urban renewal stripped away too much of our history. We want to make sure that
Mona, can you wrap up your comment, please?
Are retained. Thank you.
Next caller, Linda Alexander, you have been unmuted. Please unmute.
Morning again, Linda Alexander. By definition, identification, I'd like to say that I do serve on the Central San Pedro Neighborhood Council, and I'd like to invite the new Commissioner Hamilton to attend our land use committee meetings and introduce himself. I'm speaking today in favor of the Walker Cafe as historic designation. I'm not as eloquent as Emma or Mona, who have just spoken, but let me say humbly that although perhaps San Pedro is not the most significant historic part of Los Angeles, it's certainly up at the top, 3 or 4. And we've seen through urban renewal in the 70s, as Emma mentioned, the destruction of so many of our historic buildings that we deeply regret at this time. And so we need to fight to retain the little bit that we have left. And certainly the presentation has proven the importance of Walker's Cafe. Thank you.
Thank you. Next caller, Richard Shave, you have been unmuted. You have 1 minute.
Commissioners, hello. Shave here, private citizen. Just, I really enjoy being a private citizen because it lets me make suggestions that elected officials and their staff may not necessarily make because they're concerned they're going to step on toes. I encourage the owners, and the burden of entitlements or exemptions are entirely on owners of property. I encourage them to, without hesitation, reach out to Councilmember Joe Buscaino, a true man of the people and running for mayor of Los Angeles. I know in my heart Joe wants to support and save walkers, and you should just pick up the phone and call his office as soon as this meeting is over. I am so happy to see this nomination come before the commission. I'm so excited about the next hearing, and I just want to put on the table, in case no one else does, and I know this is slightly outside your purview, but Don Spivak told me to say this. I'm encouraging you to remember that this is a legacy business, and the city of Los Angeles, and as this goes to Plum, I'm going to keep saying this, the city of Los Angeles needs to get on top of legacy businesses and how to best preserve them, and I believe that's the opposite side of the coin that historic cultural monument status sits. So please accept this nomination for consideration. Get it to the second hearing. It's such an important place. Effective ownership in San Pedro.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next caller, Lorna, you have been unmuted. Please unmute.
Thank you. Good afternoon, commissioners, and thank you for the opportunity to express my strong support for this monument application for Walker's Cafe. My name is Lorna Lukerzukas. I'm a professor of sociology and global studies. I grew up in San Pedro. I graduated from San Pedro High School in 1976, and in 1985, I authored an MA thesis entitled Walker's World about the cafe and its community. The cafe is an iconic landmark that should be preserved not only because the cafe, Sunken City, the Lighthouse, and Point Fermin Park are all part of the rich diversity of San Pedro, but because Walker's Cafe represents the formation of community and the welcoming of many different people into an environment where they could coexist and thrive. Bessie and Christine made sure all were welcome at Walker's. The place and space of Walker's Cafe holds deep meaning in my life, and I know there are thousands more who feel the same way. A cafe is needed at the site. Losing the cafe, which is world-renowned, would be an enormous cultural loss to the city. Time and the loss of people change things, but today the commission has the power to save something special. Please support the application to designate Walker's Cafe in San Pedro as a historic cultural monument. Thank you.
Thank you. Next caller, Winship, you have been unmuted. Please unmute.
Good morning, commissioners. This is Sion Winship. I'm speaking today as a preservation professional. And I would just like to take a moment to address the issue of rarity, which Emma's presentation, which was excellent, just didn't have a chance to do. During Survey LA, fewer than a dozen commercial resources were identified in the city of San Pedro, and Walker's was the only restaurant identified. And its location in Point Fermin, as you can tell, makes it even more unique. This important commercial vernacular style structure deserves to keep its rightful place within the San Pedro community for generations to come. I strongly urge the commission to consider the application to make Walker's Cafe a historic cultural monument. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Next caller, Candace, you have been unmuted. Please unmute.
Okay. Yes, I'm a local resident. I live very near Walker's Cafe. My family would drive along the coast, a beautiful coastline view, and visit the park and have Sunday breakfast there as a child. I'm 72 years old, and I consider it a vital part of our community. There are very few restaurants left here at this area. People come to visit and they say, where can I eat? Well, we've got an ice cream truck out there. So please preserve this gem of a restaurant here in San Pedro. I urge you to do that. My father went out of Fort MacArthur during World War II, and I'm an artist up at Angels Gate Cultural Center, and I have lived here all my adult life. Thank you. Please consider this.
Candace, for the record, can you give us your name, please?
Yes, Candace Gawn, G-A-W-N-E. Thank you.
Thank you. Next caller, Ania, you have been unmuted. Please unmute.
Hi, everyone. My name is Anya Sapivi, and I'm a San Pedro resident and small business owner that's also chiming in support of a historic cultural monument designation for Walker's Cafe. We're lucky to have a place like Walker's that has such a long history and that is featured in the lives of generations of San Pedrons. Walker's is a San Pedro institution known and loved for decades. These kinds of historic gathering places are the lifeblood of our community and oftentimes can be lost in the name of progress. So thank you for allowing me a platform in this little spiel to be just another voice in the hopes of attaining the designation of a historic cultural monument and preserve our beloved Walker's Cafe, removing the risk of yet another piece of our history potentially disappearing. Thank you.
Thank you. Next caller, Keith Nakata, you have been unmuted. Please unmute.
Hi, good morning. It's Keith Nakata speaking in support of Walker's Cafe. I'm speaking as a member of Hollywood Teamsters Local 399, which is the location managers local, and I'm one of the signatories on the petition that you received as today. I just want to say how significant this location is to the film community and how iconic it is as a part of Los Angeles. It's San Pedro has so many gems that need to be protected. It's a very interesting working class neighborhood that we've seen some HCM applications for, but I think has the potential for many more in the future. So please support today the application for Walker's Cafe.
Thank you. Next caller, Rosalind Sagara, you have been unmuted. Please unmute.
Good morning, Commissioners. Rosalind Sagara with Los Angeles Conservancy, voicing support for item 7, the Historic Cultural Monument nomination for Walker's Cafe. This rare property, including signage, was identified by Survey LA under the theme of commercial identity as the longtime location of Walker's Cafe in San Pedro, in continuous operation by the Peterson family and descendants since 1946. This family-run business has contributed to the commercial, social, and cultural history of Los Angeles and is highly significant within the context of Point Fermin and San Pedro. We urge the Commission to take this nomination under consideration. Thank you.
Thank you. Next caller, Douglas Emperhart, you have been unmuted. Please unmute.
Okay, thank you. This is Doug Emperhart. I am the president of the Coastal San Pedro Neighborhood Council, and based on the comments of the board members, I think you probably understand how enthusiastically our council supports this nomination. I have been a 30-year plus patron of Walker's Cafe. I think at this point, the only thing that you have not heard is that the food was good and the beer was cold. So please do everything you can to save this place for our community.
Thank you. Next caller, Alex Zucas, you have been unmuted. Please unmute. Alex Zucas, you have been unmuted. Please unmute.
Yes, thank you. Good morning, Commissioners. Yeah, my name is Alex Zucas, and I support designating Walker's historical cultural monument. I'm in my early 70s. I grew up in Torrance, and Walker's was a place that I would go to get a great burger and hang out and enjoy the view on Point Fermin. I'm very happy to see this nomination come to the Commission, and I urge you to support making Walker's a historical cultural monument, since it has been a key part of the history of San Pedro and Southern California, including South Bay, where I lived. Thank you.
Thank you. Last caller, Anna Marie Brooks, you have been unmuted. Please unmute.
Sorry. I experienced Walker's just once when I was working on the nomination for the Admiral's House. It's an amazing place. I had to wait to get a table inside because I wanted to see what it looked like inside. And it was truly worth the wait. You could tell it was a community hangout. And we have so few of those left in Los Angeles anywhere. And the view is amazing. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Malasky, we do not have any more hands raised for this item.
Okay, let's close public comment on Walker's Cafe. One of the things which I think is really interesting to me is, especially in the comments we received, is this nomination really deals with, the middle name of this commission. It's our it's a cultural monument. It's important to the culture of San Pedro. It's important to the culture of the neighborhood. It's important to the culture. That sort of designation or representation of the culture of the city as it sort of grew and emerged. So I'm totally in favor of moving this nomination forward. Other commissioners?
Yeah, this is Commissioner Kennard. I want to compliment the applicant. It was a wonderful application, thorough. Just one point of information though, and it's not exclusive to you. The history of this area, who use plank boats to travel between what is now San Pedro up to Catalina. And I think that's an important part of the history that also needs to be incorporated. So I support the taking it under consideration. And I compliment you again for your application. Thank you.
Hi, Richard Barron. Yes, I'm in agreement. I'm supportive of this. I think, Emma, you did a wonderful presentation for not being, as you put it, educated in preservation. And I think it is I think these kinds of places are very important for our culture and our city of Los Angeles. And hopefully, by making this a monument, if it does go forward all the way, that it would be easier for the councilmen and council people and the planning department to make exceptions for whatever things that need to be done to help this restaurant survive as a restaurant. And I think, having a bar and all of that is very important to the success of this place. So, but basically, I'm very supportive of this. Thank you. Thanks for bringing it forward.
Commissioner Cantor?
I'll only say that last year I visited the Point Furman Lighthouse with staff and with Commissioner Barron, and I thought that area was so beautiful. It was a windy day, and it was like we were at the end of the the earth practically. It was just a beautiful area, and I'm sorry we didn't have lunch there. We went somewhere else, but I do support taking it under consideration.
Yeah, I think the public comment was made of the importance. I think Richard Shave made of speaking to the council member in terms of whatever entitlements might be required to maintain its use as a restaurant. We as a commission don't have the ability to designate uses. We designate places and spaces. But I think should this go forward, it'd be good to enlist support from the council office. Do I have a motion?
I'll move that Richard Barron, I'll move that we take the Walker Cafe and bar under consideration and adopt the staff report.
James Williams, City Planning.
We need a second, James.
I'll second. Commissioner Cantor, I'll second.
Thank you. James Williams, City Planning. So before we take the vote, I want to note the two hands raised in the audience. We did open and have an appropriate public comment period. We did not know whether or not you wanted to take this opportunity to recognize those two speakers before we moved on.
Okay, let's reopen public comment. I guess procedurally, Kimberly, can I do that after a motion's been made?
Yes, you would just need to remake the motion after public comment is.
All right. Okay, let's reopen public comment for item number 7. I see one hand raised at this moment.
Yes, CA, can you please unmute?
I am so sorry. I have been raising my hands for a while. My name is Carmenza Adams, and for identification purposes, I am a member of the Coastal San Pedro Neighborhood Council and the chair for the Cultural Art Committee. I am in favor of the Walker Cafe as a cultural monument. So I please humbly ask you to keep this alive. This is a landmark and the heart of our community. Thank you.
We have one more caller. Thank you. Ryan Ferguson, you have been unmuted. Please unmute.
Good morning, commissioners and planning staff. My name is Ryan Ferguson. Sorry. I'm Councilman Joe Buscaino's San Pedro field deputy, and I just wanted to indicate that the council office is in support of planning staff's recommendations to the commission to support the nomination and adopt the findings in the report. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Ryan. Okay, seeing no more hands raised, let's close public comment. Do I have
do that again?
Yeah, we need to do that again.
Okay, Richard Barron, I move that we take the Walker Cafe and Bar under consideration and adopt the staff report.
I'll second the motion. Commissioner Canner.
James?
Thank you, sir. Commissioner Barron.
Yes.
Commissioner Canner.
Yes.
Commissioner Kennard.
Yes.
Commissioner Malofsky.
Yes.
The motion passes.
All right, I think that brings to a close our meeting for today. Next regular meeting of the Cultural Heritage Commission will be on Thursday, February 3rd at 10 a.m. And I think we're adjourning this at 10:38 a.m. Thank you.
11.
Oh, you're right. I'm in a different time zone, 11:38 a.m.
Commissioner, this is Commissioner Canner. I saw
Yes.
on the advanced calendar that the meeting for the 3rd of February was canceled.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing. I thought I saw that too.
Well, it is the regularly scheduled meeting date. We are currently thinking that it's canceled, particularly with our colleague on maternity leave, but we'll keep you posted. There's a chance we may have another item to bring forward that day, because I know you're out, Commissioner Canner, on the 17th. So we'll keep you posted, but at this point it is tentatively canceled.
So you'll let us know. Okay, thank you.
Yeah,
we will.
Yeah, I mean, it's scheduled for the 3rd. It may be canceled. And with that, I guess we're adjourned.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Everyone.
Thank you all. Take care. This meeting will end for everyone.
And James, if you're not back on the 3rd, thank you.
It's been my pleasure. Everyone, take care.
Okay,
Thank you, James. Bye.